Hey there, you're watching Half Asian Tarot Queen. I'm Elisa. It is Black Friday when I'm recording this. Oh my gosh. So when I pull the deck, I'm just going to do a split. Wow. Interesting. So we got the Deer and Oat Healing. And we got the Butterfly and Snowdrop Hope. Wow, that's really interesting because, you know, there's been all this narrative about this, like there was a reading not that long ago about the levee breaking and this dam breaking open and like this big disruptive event. And so it's almost like this is kind of like the after, when the lights start shining through the, it's sort of like after the flood when like people start coming out, seeing where they're at and starting to rebuild. So it's really interesting because it's just like, I love how there's this like butterfly imagery that's coming on. That was like a really big theme in October. So yeah, it's sort of like we're kind of assessing what the new foundation is and starting the rebuilding process. Okay, I'm gonna go to the Urban Tarot. So I got the Urban and the Light Seers, which I think is an interesting and nice contrast to work with. So yeah, we'll see what we get here. I feel like super tired. It's almost like, yeah, like after everyone's been run through the ringer and we're just sort of like coming out from under the rock and being like, okay, what are we working with here? That one definitely wants to come out. Okay. So at the bottom, this is really interesting. So we got the Six of Swords, which is science in this deck. But it's interesting because we have this Kundalini energy, and it's like, it's sort of like moving around the obstacles, like it's going around, you know, and it's like rising from the ashes of that almost. Like that's kind of what the picture looks like. But yeah, because it's like, I've never noticed this in this card, but this is all going on inside of a person. So it's like the Kundalini is rising, but then there's also these six swords that are sort of like, that it has to work around, six swords that are piercing this heart. But in the traditional deck, this is a card that means like moving on from a bad situation to a better situation. So it's just sort of like, yeah, we've got our heart broken, but we're rising from that, from the ashes of that, and we're figuring out a new way forward, which is kind of what I was talking about, really. So we got success, Six of Pentacles. We got the Four of Cups, which is luxury in this deck. We got the Universe. And we got the Mage. So it's interesting how this message is really strong and coming through. So we have success, like the Six of Pentacles is a card typically of like things coming into balance, like you reap what you sow, and there's success coming to someone. We have this Four of Cups, which is oftentimes, it can be like there's this opportunity right in front of you, you're not seeing it. See, there's this one cup here left, and then there's like spilled milk on the table, you know, like you've kind of missed out on some stuff, but this opportunity is still here, despite being sort of like vegging out on the TV and like eating cookies and milk. You know, like there's still opportunities left to be taken advantage of. Like, not all is lost. And then we have the universe. So this is this person that's like interesting, like elevating. Like this Kundalini energy is rising. This person is ascending to this next level. So it's almost like we've been successful and like learned a lesson about what we haven't been seeing that was maybe blocking our success. And that's allowing us to elevate. And then we have the mage, which is like a creator, it's a manifester. It's like someone who can create something out of nothing. So it's just, this is really speaking to like a fresh start, like a new beginning, like obstacles being removed and finally being able to see through the labyrinth into like this new beginning. Okay, I'm gonna go to the Light Seers deck and I'm gonna do, no, don't spill that. You don't wanna make a mess with that. My mom likes to make concoctions. Okay, all right. So when I did the split, this is so interesting. We got the 10 of Wands and we got the Empress. So it's like all the cards keep like really confirming the same message. Like we're putting this burden down. It's finally being healed and like, and there's this new beginning that's sort of like in a gestational period. Like it hasn't been born yet, but like it's growing. You can see it. It's coming, you know, and we're like planning for it, which is kind of like the message of the reading from like When the Levee Breaks or whatever. It was just sort of like, you know this change is going to happen, so you know it's inevitable. You're not really in control of when it or how it happens, but you know it is going to happen. So it's just like start planning because it's inevitable. So yeah, it's just sort of like we're in this sort of nesting phase where we're like getting the baby's room ready, like we're painting, like picking names, you know, like it's kind of like that. It's interesting too because right under that we have the Judgment. Just like this person's spirit is being liberated from whatever situation has been like holding them back. So this message is like really coming through really strong. I'm going to go to the Starseed Oracle and pick a final card. Wow. Okay. So we got big picture thinking, Pleiades energy, visionary, inspired ideas. Look at that. It's like this gateway and there's like all these stars. And it's like, I was watching this, it was like a documentary on Netflix and I think it's called like Ancient Apocalypse or something. You know, it's talking about, I mean, they went to all these ruins of all these like ancient like sites. And it was so interesting how they were all like, there's this common theme where there's this alignment with the stars and the astronomy and like that there's like all this wisdom that's kind of been lost, you know, because we live in like bright lights and big cities and we've kind of like lost that connection. But it was really like this guiding force for people in other times, you know. My mom just picked up this card and underneath it was justice. So this is really interesting because it's like some situation is coming to justice and allowing us to put this burden down. And like in the meantime, we're like planning for this liberation, this gestational period, because we know this is going to happen. And so it's just like, this is a time for taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. And it's sort of like, it's interesting that we have like all these stars in this gateway because like you know, when we look at the stars, it's like we naturally just like recognize like that we're just this one small dot in this vast, you know, universe. And so it kind of forces you to look at things from the bigger picture. So it's interesting that but yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, he brought up all these like revolutionary ideas that I'm sure are going to be controversial in this documentary, but even just from the basic level of like going to these sites and seeing them and putting that in context, it's super interesting and inspiring, because it's just like, you know, I think from the point of our own ego, like people think, oh, like we're just the most advanced civilization, and you know, maybe that's not actually true, you know, maybe that's just like what we'd like to think. But no, don't pour that out. We're gonna not pour that out, okay? And then at the bottom of the deck we have portal. Doors are opening, you decide, rewards, wild card. So it's like we're definitely stepping into the unknown, into this new beginning. It's interesting that both of these cards show doorways. And in this card we have, you know, this inspiration of the stars on the other side of the doorway. And on this side we have just this totally like unknown, like you can morph this into anything. There's just like limitless potential here. So yeah, this really looks like a gateway into this. What I'm getting like is there's like limitless potential here, but like don't box yourself in, because there's like limitless potential, and like, you know, we're just like this small thing in this vast sea of possibility. And so don't discount that as you're like planning your next steps forward, because I mean, especially in this moment in time, like there's so much changing and flux that's going on that it's naturally this moment of just great potential. And so it's like if you dare to dream.
I don't want to do it.
You don't want to dream?
Just one.
My mom, she doesn't like to dream. She likes things to be laid out and already known.
Oh,
No? You like dreaming? Dream. Anyways, it's a little bit of a rambler, but it's a nice positive message on the other side of a lot of what look like pretty dramatic stuff. So it's time to sort of like rest, heal, and dream big. Don't push yourself too hard, because this is a moment of flux, and it's really like, I think right now you can get farther by considering the environment and where we are, and then trying to like force something to happen, because it's really a time to like roll with the current, and I think if you stay in the flow, like some really beautiful things can happen. So I'm gonna leave it there for today and check in soon with more updates.